Hello and welcome to another edition of Santos on Sports, along with my partner in crime, Mr. X's and O's, Chris Santos. I am Paul Santos. Welcome in. We'd like to remind you that we'd like to thank our sponsors about Scotty's Pub, 202 Pleasant Street in Fall River. Thank you. Citywide Glass with 3 locations to serve you at 425 State Road in Dartmouth, additional locations in Fall River and Taunton. Lakeville Athletic Club, 325 Bedford Street in Lakeville, where you can play tennis and you can play pickleball. And Attorney John Seed, 156 8th Street in New Bedford. And you get more information on John by going to johnseedlaw.com. Chris, how are you today?
Paul, I am busy. I got a lot going on. With work here at school, flying up to Stonehill to coach my tennis, hosting you and your wife, taking you to Patriots games. I mean, I got a lot of things going on, Paul. So I'm a busy man, but I always have time for Santos on Sports. Let's get to it. Let's talk about these Patriots. First of all, what went on Sunday? And two, the question of the day, is Mac Jones to blame, or is there more to meet the eye?
Well, I'm going to answer that question right now. Is it fair to blame Mac Jones is the question. The answer is no, I don't think it is. I don't think it's fair to blame him, right? I think the tendency is to talk about the quarterback all the time, talk about the coach. I heard someone today say, well, Bill Belichick is 0-5 against Tua. I'm thinking, how can you possibly take like one coach and then take one player on a team, even though it's an important player, and say one's beating the other without factoring in with all the other players on the team, all the other talent on the team, who's on the team? That doesn't make any sense at all to me. Yeah. So to me, I think that Mac Jones, he's okay. He's a decent quarterback, I think. I think he does a good job. He's not like one of the top quarterbacks in the league. He's not Mahomes. He's not Brady. He's not anybody like that. But I think he does a good job. The problem is you got to look at the rest of the team. The Patriots just don't have the weapons that these other teams have, and it's unfortunate. And a lot of that, I blame Belichick. Belichick, we can talk about being a great coach, and he schemes things up, and, he kept the score down in the game and so on and so forth. Well, that's all good, but you still need players. You still need good chess pieces to win the game. And for some reason, he tries to win without having all pros on a team. He wants to take a good player or mediocre player and make them better and win like that. Well, you just can't do that. In other words, you look over here at Tua, right? He's throwing a Tyreek Hill. He's throwing a Jalen Waddle. Okay, a couple of, all-pro type players. On the other side, you got Devontae Adams, who I didn't think he was that great. Even on the 50-50 ball, he just, let the interception happen. And the Patriots also relying on Douglas, who they benched after, he made the fumble, which was probably a little bit too harsh, given the fact that he was one of their better players. But now they're relying on a 6th-round pick, from a small school, whereas Tua was throwing to, obviously an all-pro player. So, and the other thing too, the offensive line, Chris, man, the offensive line, they were struggling. He was hurried trying to make these throws, and he got flushed out of the pocket and made some good plays. He ran for first down. He ran and threw a pass on the run. Now, did he make some bad throws? Yeah, he did. He made some bad throws too. But, it's a team game. And it seems to me that if the Patriots just had 2, perhaps 1 or 2 really top wide receivers, like if they had Jacoby Myers there, and Hopkins, they were talking about getting Hopkins. If they had those 2 players added to this, it could be 2-0 right now, right? It could make that much of a difference because both of those games are winnable. So I don't think it's fair. I think Matt Jones is being blamed, and it's a team game, and I don't think it's really all his fault.
Well, I'm an X's and O's guys, Paul, and you know that. And, we're watching the game the other day, and we saw what had happened and what went down. And, you go down early, and now you're forced to try to score. You march your team down the field, and the guy catches the ball, and then he stops and goes the other way. Someone comes from behind, knocks the ball out, and obviously it's a fumble. And the next thing you know, that guy's in the doghouse, and he's not playing that much. So there's already a sequence where, how do you blame Mac Jones for any of that? You can't. Then you can look at another sequence where I would say 3 to 4 out of the 7 plays, he's being hurried and attacked, and the offensive line can't hold their end, and he's getting sacked. And so a lot of things, are not going his way. He got out of the pocket. He ran for a first down. He's trying to do what he can, but I just don't think they have the talent, and that's the word I'm going to use, the talent that maybe some of these other teams have, whether it's up front on the line, whether it's the wide receivers. I'm kind of enjoying watching Henry and Gesicki. I think it's two good guys. Even Stevenson and Elliott, I think it's okay. But those guys ain't going to go too far if that offensive line's not producing for them as well. So just to put it all on Mac Jones and blame him for 2 losses in this team, I can't do that. I can't do that at all. I don't see it. Yeah, you can blame Bill for not doing this and that. You could say, hey, Kraft, you got all this money. What are you doing with it? Why are you not working with Bill to better this organization, which you've done in the past? And why are you not doing more of it? So they brought Parker back finally for game 2. And Paul, we saw him. They tried to use Parker as much as they could, from screens to down the field to in patterns to out patterns. They were really trying to get him the ball. So they're trying to get something that really clicks between Jones and whoever he can find. I just don't think there's enough talent on that field for them to really succeed on the offensive side of the ball.
Well, we got a comment here from Gerard Cusson, and in answer to the question, fair to blame Mac Jones for the Pats' losses, he said, no, it's not fair. Mm-hmm. So he agrees with us so far, and if you'd like to call us in or maybe type in your position on that, please do. And of course, you can call that number at the bottom of the screen, 774-762-6234. But doesn't it come back, though, to Bill Belichick? In other words, okay, maybe Bob Kraft is telling them not to spend money. I don't know. I mean, Bob Kraft, they spent all that money the year after Tampa Bay won the Super Bowl. And I don't know if that was just because of embarrassment. They didn't spend it in the right place. They ended up with players that didn't pan out. But then the year after that and the year after that, when there were better players out there, they didn't bother to try to get them. So I don't know whose fault it is. To me, Belichick is, the head of football operations. And if he goes to Kraft and says, hey, I don't have the players to win. We're not going to win with the players that we have. I need to go get some players. I would think that Kraft would say, go ahead, get the players. Kraft wants to win. So I don't know. It just seems to me that Belichick is trying to win without having the best players. And I don't care how great a coach you are. You can't win unless you have really good or great players on your team.
Well, you can look back at last year, Paul, and a lot of people will, and they won't talk about the players. Instead, they'll talk about the coaching staff. They'll talk about Patricia. They'll talk about Judge and say, we had people in the wrong place. Now, I think they're given a leave of absence for that 1 year and said, okay, now we got more of the people we want in the right place. Let's see what this team brings to the table. So I think last year is more on the coaches than the players in that perspective. And I can see that. So this year is a turning point. This is a big year. And this is an organization now, after being great for 20 years, does not want to fall behind and get back to those losing ways before Brady came. They have success. They sniffed it. They smell it. They're hungry for it. They got it, and they want to keep it up. That's what good organizations do. And if not, someone's going to go. Someone's going to leave. The Yankees do it. A lot of these Dodgers do it. Teams will do it, and they'll get rid of them. So I expect the same thing that happened here with the Patriots. I think this is a kind of a year, a do or die for some of these players and coaches.
Well, I got to tell you, I hate to say this again because we've discussed this before. Belichick's the greatest coach of all time. We don't want to take anything away from him. He had 6 Super Bowl championships, and he was on the New York Giants when they won a couple of Super Bowls and spearheaded the defense and so forth. So that's all great. But, when you look back at it now and you have a chance to put it in a little bit of perspective, not just Tom Brady, right? To say, well, before Brady, he was a 500 coach. After Brady, he's a 500 coach. Well, it's not just before Brady and after Brady. During the Brady years, the Patriots had some damn good teams. You know what I mean? Like, okay, Brady can make people around him better, and he's probably good for 2 or 3 wins during the season. But how about Brady in 2019? If you remember correctly, people were saying, oh, it's finally over. He's 42, 43 years old. He's really starting to fade. He's not good anymore. Well, it turns out he didn't have any weapons. As soon as he went to Tampa, he was 43, 44 years old. He looked like he was 24 again because he gave him some weapons. And he knew it, too. He knew that when he went to Tampa, he knew that they had some weapons there. And then he talked Gronkowski into going down there. And the next thing you know, he was surrounded by really what was a great, great team. And nothing against Brady for being part of that team, or I'm not trying to take anything away from him personally. But he's smart and he's a leader. And, he got into that locker room and that's the whole winning culture kind of took over. And he's texting people the night before the Super Bowl, hey, tomorrow we're going to win. Did you know that? All the stuff that, leaders do. that sometimes people don't think of. And that's the answer. I mean, even when Brady was on bad teams, they didn't win. And he knew it too. He knew in 2019 that it wasn't a good team.
No, I agree with you there. And he did the smart thing. He left because he left and realized how good that of a team Tampa had and what they needed. And they were a quarterback away from doing what they needed to do. So he made the right choice in that aspect. But okay, I can agree toward the end there of his career. It was a struggle time for him to really get the players that he needed to get for the Patriots to say, okay, these are guys I want to throw to. These are guys that can lead me to another Super Bowl. And the talent wasn't there. And that happens. And you got to expect that to happen because people are going to leave for free agency. People are going to leave for money. People are just, it's going to happen. They're going to retire. There's a lot going on. And during that span, those players got older and they were trying to make changes and put other people in them places. And it just wasn't working out. So, yeah, and I think Mac's seeing the same thing here with the talent that he has. Just doesn't seem to be enough yet. A lot of rookies still on this team. And a lot of guys, Paul, that we got from other teams that, it takes a little bit to gel with somebody. It's just not an overnight success. So if you get into Devontae Parker and maybe, you might have had a year under your belt with him, but remember, he was hurt last year. So you're trying to get him get involved and getting together with Mac. And some of these other guys are new. So you got Juju Schuster, a new player. You got Gesicki, a new player. It just doesn't come right off the bat and say, oh, yeah, I got this, and we're going to win a Super Bowl. It's very difficult. Sometimes it takes just a little bit longer to get them things together. So, I expect the Patriots to still do well and win some games. They've had two solid games against two good teams. The Eagles are talented, and so is Miami.
Well, first of all, thank you for letting us know that you had 2 tickets available. So my wife and I joined you and your daughter.
Sure.
And we had a great seat there, just a few rows up in the end zone, but high up, so you could really see the field and you could really see the plays develop. But I got to tell you, I noticed something. Sometimes you pick stuff up when you're at the game that maybe you don't pick up on television. Is it me or did the Patriots look slow compared to Miami? Miami just looked faster to me. They just look like more athletic, quicker, and the Patriots look slow to me. And, there's no separation. Mac Jones is throwing every time Mac Jones threw the ball deep down the field. It was basically, I'm just throwing it up there. There was no separation. Whereas, the players on Miami, they would get separation, and they would get open. And the other thing too is, talking about a couple of all-stars like Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. I was reading like a breakdown of the game, and there was one play where they tossed a screen pass to Jalen Waddle, and then he ran for like 30 yards. And the reason why he had a lot of room is because they were double teaming Tyreek Hill down the field. Mm-hmm. Well, when you play against the Patriots, you don't have to worry about double teaming a guy over here. I mean, so if you got 2 great players like that, you pay a little bit of attention to that one, the other one will be open, right? Well, when you play against the Patriots, you don't have to worry about stuff like that.
Yeah, and I thought Miami did a good job of reading the zone coverage and finding spots in the zone. I didn't think the Pats got beat downfield a lot by Waddle or by Hill, but they got beat in that 8 to 10 yard range where they're so quick and fast, they get to that zone, that dead spots in those zones, and Tua, who's very accurate, can pick you apart. And they were doing that a lot. And then you add in screens and reverses and different things, and they use that speed to help themselves out because they have those kind of weapons. So, and that's what they do well. So it makes it a little more difficult. Now, if the Pats go man to man, we saw the young rookie Gonzalez on Hill, and there now you're going to see a lot of cushion because he doesn't want to get beat deep. So you saw Hill running those 10-yard outs or 10-yard stops because, a lot of cushion, and Gonzalez didn't want him to get by him. So, Miami took what the Patriots defense gave them, and it's not that they exploited it. They did what they were supposed to do with what was offered to them.
I heard some criticism of the Patriots defense in that game, right? And the criticism goes that, they were playing 3 players deep and they were kind of making it tough for Tua to throw the ball, but they were kind of conceding the running game. And that was basically keeping the score down. Well, okay, whatever that may be, but in the end, they still only scored 24 points. Yep. I mean, in the NFL, in today's NFL, if you can't score more than 24 points, you're not going to win many games.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but you don't want to give up the big play. And I think that's what they're nervous about with Miami. even what they saw when they played the Chargers the week before, which was a lot of the big plays, and they scored in the 40s, I believe it was. So that's what they wanted to eliminate. And Bill does a pretty good job of taking away the best player on the other team. I've always said that about him, and he does a pretty good job, and he makes other people beat you. So that guy may play his part and get some things, but they don't usually overwhelm you like they can against other teams. So I thought the big play was obviously the run play to Mostert there in the third or fourth. I forgot which one it was, when he broke through the middle and he ran for 48, Paul, and we watched that one. I thought that was a big play. And the Pats really haven't done that in a while, giving up a big, long run. But they did on that play, and it had a bad time too, which is obviously now going to make you chase.
Now, we had a great seat for the interception by Howard, right down in front of us, right in the corner, throwing to the corner, kind of like at the 1 yard line.
Yep.
And you got Howard down there with, let's see, that was Devontae Adams, right?
Parker.
I mean, Devontae, yeah, right. Which we had Devontae Adams.
Yeah, exactly.
Devontae Parker, right? Parker. So I remember, fans are kind of sitting down, and then as the ball was in the air, everybody kind of stood up. Yep. And I see the football flying through the air, and I look at the two players that are basically on top of each other.
Yep.
And, Howard goes up and gets the ball, and Parker was kind of behind him.
Yep.
And I don't know, it just didn't look really good to me the way they battled it out. What'd you think of that play?
Well, I thought Howard did a great job of good body position, number one. Number two, he forced Parker to go out of bounds, which now if you come back in and touch the ball, you're the first person who touches the ball, and that's a penalty. So he did the right thing of how to square it up, and then he fought with Parker, then turned and looked at the ball, and then went up and got it at its highest point like a good defensive back should. So that's just a good play by the defensive back. Now, if you're Mac Jones, do you make that throw? Well, the coverage was so good that probably no, you shouldn't. Or if you do, you throw it in a spot where, hey, Parker can be the only guy that really can go get it. But unfortunately, he was a little short, and Howard took advantage of it.
All right, let's go to Ryan in Rochester. Good evening.
Hey, guys. How's it going?
Yeah.
Voice pause. I can tell you had a good time over there.
Yeah, my voice is still raspy from yelling at the team. Yes, that's correct.
Right. Let's get this out of the way right away. You really didn't expect the Patriots to win this game with Paul being there live, did you?
Oh no. That's why I said to you guys afterward. The curse is still real. It has not been broken yet. It is still going. But yeah, I agree with a lot of what you said. Like, I'm not going to be one of these people that bashes Mac Jones.
Yeah, I'm not either. Yeah.
I thought he was pretty impressive, considering, like, even though he didn't. Now, a play that I look at, like, even though it wasn't a complete pass. Go ahead.
Yeah,
go ahead.
So a play that I always keep in mind was like the 3rd and 20, I think it was. They were backed up in their own end zone. He scrambles to his left and just rips one. He ended up missing Gesicki, but it wasn't like an underthrow. He overthrew him, but the fact that he was able to scramble to his left and get the pass off to begin with, I think a guy with actual speed, like say a Hill or a Waddle, like, which we obviously don't have anything of the like, maybe he could have caught up to that ball, but who knows? But yeah, the offensive line play continues to be bad, especially on the right side. Clearly, Cole Strange and Michael Wenu were rusty because they barely practiced all summer. And, on defense, I was actually listening to Felger Madge before I came to work today. He was talking about how they were kind of screwing around with the defensive line, where instead of, having Devon Godchaux over at end, they switched it around so Aquala was the nose tackle, and they put Devon Godchaux at end. Mm-hmm. The Dolphins ran all over that, especially on the left side. Mostert just went nuts, and seemed like we were overcommitting on the right side on defense, and they just used this. They took advantage of their speed and then just went to the left side, just killed us all day.
Yeah, I was talking with Paul about that during the game. That wow, they're really running to the left, which they knew something was going on there. And that particular play, Ryan, that you're talking about, when it was 3rd and 20 deep, that was the end zone that me and Paul were on. And we saw Mac Jones roll to his left and throw the ball pretty good, rolling to your left, which is not easy for a right-hander. And Gesicki had a step. He just overthrew him. And you could tell that Mac was a little upset about it because, he wanted that pass back. But it was interesting to see how he flushed the pocket and stayed away from the danger there. But yeah, I thought he was under pressure most of the night. Trying to do the dink and dunk at first, and then try to open it up as the game went on. But when you turn the ball over as they had there at the beginning when you're driving, that's a killer. That's something you want back. And then of course you get the yellow flag and you get some penalties, and that kills the drive as well. So yeah, I can't blame this all on Mac, not at all. And I didn't think he was that bad, to tell you the truth.
I got to ask both of you guys. I'm sitting there in the stands and I'm watching this game, and as a spoiled Patriots fan, I'm watching this game and I'm just getting frustrated because I'm looking out there and I'm like, this doesn't have to be like this. All you have to do is go out and pick up 2 or 3 really good free agents, and all of a sudden, instead of winning 7 games like you and Ryan both are predicting 7 and 10, it started to look like that could be. You're 10 and 7 instead of 7 and 10. I mean, the difference between those two, records obviously is 3 games, and all you need is 2 or 3 really good quality players. So I just don't understand why somebody like Bill Belichick just can't make a personnel decision that feels to be like it's obvious to us who aren't as knowledgeable as he might be. I don't understand that, Chris.
Well, he made his decision 1 or 2 years ago by dropping Myers and picking up Schuster, picking up Gesicki, picking up Henry, picking up Parker. He's made those decisions to say, these are the guys I want to see. These are the guys I'm going with, because he's had opportunities for the other ones. And yeah, he brought them in to the camp, talked to them, took a look at them, see what they wanted, and then let them go by. So I don't know if it's just the chemistry's not there between these free agents that are coming in, or he's just satisfied with what he has. But after 0-2, I'll tell you, that could have been one of the worst post games I've ever heard. Driving home, listening to him, because he barely said a word. And when people ask questions, he don't answer them. That's for sure. My brother was there. He's listening on the camera, and he's going, wow, I can tell Bill is not a happy camper. And I go, no, he's not. And when you hear him talk, he is just frustrated right now after 2 games.
That's why I've made it a point to just stop watching or listening to Bill Belichick press conferences at all, because they're all useless. Doesn't matter, like for the Matt Corral situations, for example, like before he officially got cut, you could have asked him something as simple as, is he doing okay? He would still freaking snort at you. His press conferences are useless. Yeah. And you talked about before some of like these acquisitions that he made, like a lot of them I feel like are just kind of like bargain basket shopping at this point. Like in 2021, obviously that was like the spending spree, and Hunter Henry and Jonnu Smith just so happened to be the top tight ends on the market, and obviously only one of them ended up hitting. But guys like Allen Robinson were available, then so you just got Nelson Aguilar instead. Like it feels like at some positions he just doesn't want to pay top dollar to go get wide receiver being at the top of that list. And again, Hunter Henry at the time was the best guy on the market at the time, and he splurged for that. But aside from that, he just doesn't like spending on the offensive side of the ball. And you would think, because he's a defensive-minded coach, draft and develop on defense, go spend on offense. But he just doesn't do that. He's very on and off.
Did you think this game, Ryan, was a showcase for Devontae Parker? Because I thought he was trying to find him an awful lot, which I thought maybe Kendrick Bourne would be more of a guy you would go to. But it seemed like he wanted Parker in a lot of different spots, and he kept trying to go to him.
I would say so, yeah. And I think they were definitely trying to feature him, considering like he's probably, if you think about it, besides Demario Douglas, who obviously had the fumble, then they benched him, and then Bill doesn't want to admit for whatever reason. He was probably the best guy that you've got, because obviously you paid Juju all that money. He hasn't panned out. Demario Douglas again is not getting shots. Kendrick Bourne, for whatever reason, even though he's probably overall your best receiver, and even though he dropped the ball that he could have had, although he couldn't get both arms up there. Yeah, I would say Devontae Parker is probably one of the top guys, and that's not saying much. So I could see that. Even on the 50-50 ball, which again I'm always saying, why are you attacking a guy's best corner? But yeah, he was trying to feature him, and it kind of turned against him at one point.
I'll tell you, when that ball was in midair, we were just talking about it before. I didn't think it. I was looking at it out of the corner of my eye. I'm like, this is not going to be good.
No,
yeah, fellas, I'm getting, and I heard this on the radio, but I was thinking the same thing. I'm getting really tired of this doghouse kind of thing that Belichick is trying to impose every time somebody does something wrong. I mean, you got superstars that you pay money to go see, and you want to watch these guys play. And the guy gets hit from behind, and drops the ball, and all of a sudden now you never see the guy in the field again. I don't know what this imposes. I don't know what he's trying to say to the team by keep doing this all the time. Now, if Douglas came off the field and Belichick went over to him and then he berated him or he did something different, okay, maybe I get that. But, it doesn't sound like that is. It's every time someone makes a mistake, it's all of a sudden now this guy's sitting out and he's all done. And when they ask him the question, well, we got a lot of people in the personnel, so we're just using other players. And that's all he says. So, I'm kind of getting sick of it myself. And I'm not even a fan. You New England fans must be going crazy having to deal with this all the time.
Yeah, I mean, somebody referred to it as cutting off your nose to spite your face. I mean, he's sending a message to that player, but if that player is one of the top players that could win you the game, you might be losing the game making that decision.
It's crazy.
Yeah. All right. Well, Ryan, we really appreciate your call as always, and we'll talk to you again soon. Thank you so much.
No problem. Thanks for having me on, guys.
All right.
Thanks, Ryan.
Let's go to Nelson from Fall River. You're on Santos on Sports.
Hey, guys. What's going on?
How's it going? What's happening?
Thank you all for coming to our open house. We look forward to working with you this year and have a great night.
So far about
You've been listening to us talk about the game?
Yeah, everything that has been talked about so far. And I don't believe Mac Jones deserves all the blame.
Okay.
Good.
Because football is a team sport.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone has to come to the plate and then perform on the field.
All right, but let me ask you this. Do you think Mac Jones is a good quarterback, a mediocre quarterback?
I'm gonna say he's mediocre right now. I'm gonna say he's mediocre. He still has a lot of learning to do.
Mm-hmm.
But football's a long season, as we know, and maybe they can turn it around. But being 0-2 is not good. I mean, to have Brady go there and they lose, and then to have you, Paul, to go there.
Oh boy! Yes, I know.
A travesty. But here's the bigger question for both of you. So I'm gonna put you both on the spot. If the Bradys continue to suck this year, I'm not going to say they're going to go 0-8. I think they're going to win a few games. But let's say it's really bad. Do you foresee Robert Kraft canning Bill Belichick?
Ooh, that's a big question. I was thinking we might ask that in one of the shows down the road. You think if it's really bad, Chris, like we're not talking about 7-10. We're talking about, let's say they only win like 5 games and it's really a disaster. You think Kraft could potentially give, Belichick the axe?
Well, I've talked about this, and I said I don't see Belichick lasting too much longer as a coach. Now, I think it will be an agreement between both him and Kraft that it's best for me to move on and do something else, or I'm retiring now. But a lot of people think, hey, I'm hanging on until I beat Don Shula's record in most victories. That's another one that seems to be up there. But then again, he could go somewhere else too and still do that and win games in other places. So it will really have to be, Paul, something where they're not even in the fight. Now, they were in the fight against the Eagles, and they were in the fight against the Dolphins. When you're only losing by 7, or you have a chance to win at the end like with the Eagles and even the Miami game, you're in the fight, you're in the hunt. You may not get over the top, but you're in the hunt. So I think you'll hang around. If you have a season where these teams are smoking you 38-10, 42-7, you get games like that, and it's happening more and more, and you can see a lot not really happening with your team, then I would have a little more doubts in my mind about Belichick coming back. But, they're fighting right now. They're playing still some decent ball. They got a good defense. Maybe their offense can start gelling and win a few more games. So, no, not at 0-2. Come back later on with this question, Nelson and Paul, and maybe we can talk about it a little bit later on in the season if it starts to turn as the way I said it.
Now, I know you're a New York guy there, Nelson.
Yes.
So
Hell yes. Hell yes.
tell me about your New York teams here. You get the the Jets are they lost after the first game, but still the Giants aren't doing so great. So I don't know. It's kind of a mediocre situation for you there.
Well, the Giants came back from a massive deficit.
They did.
And I feel bad for everybody who went to the sports books to bet against the Giants. And they lost a whole lot of money.
Yeah.
But again, it is the beginning of the season. Things are tight now, but if things start to break apart towards the middle and towards the end of the season, and if these standings don't improve, I think Robert Kraft is going to tell Mr. Belichick, hey, come to my office. We need to talk.
Ooh, so you think he's going to give him the axe if this keeps up?
Well, if it keeps going the way, Nelson's thinking it is. But
all right, so Nelson, before we let you go, I just want to ask you a question. Patriots are playing the Jets this coming week. I know you're a New York guy, right? Hey, the Jets with that quarterback, I mean, they are shaky. They are shaky. Who do you think's going to win that game?
The Jets, of course. Look, you're talking to a guy who has no faith in New England. I have zero faith. I give everyone credit who plays professional football. I want everyone to go home healthy to their families. However, the fact will always remain: the Patriots' glory days are over.
Ooh.
They're over.
Oh, you know how to hurt a guy, I'll tell you.
Left.
Well, I don't know. I'm hoping that the Patriots can beat the Jets because the Jets are struggling right now after the injury to Rodgers. But hey, Chris, he thinks the Jets are going to win that game.
Paul, if you want me to want to turn around, I'll take the knife right out of your back, no problem. Because Nelson's just letting you have it right now. I'll tell you that. The Jets are coming home. They got beat by Dallas, and they got beat pretty good by Dallas. But Dallas is a good team right now. They got a lot going for them defensively and offensively. So they want things to turn around. And when you have some home cooking, you get the Patriots coming in. Obviously, big AFC East rivalry. It should be a good one, and I think it's going to be a tight game. I'm going like Nelson, 13-10, something that kind of small kind of game. I'm not expecting a lot of points, but I expect both defenses to play well.
I'm going 21-17.
Okay, yeah, I like that too.
All right. We'll call next week, and we'll see which way it came out. Thanks a lot, Nelson. We appreciate it. Call again.
Thanks, Nelson.
All right. Thank you very much for calling. And he thinks that the Jets are going to win that game. Talking about this game, right?
Yeah.
The Patriots, we kind of felt this way about the Miami game. They kind of really needed that one. They didn't get that one, but they really, really, really need this one.
Yes. Well, obviously now being 0-2 to kind of get themselves going to possibly obviously do what you want to do, which is to make the playoffs. I've seen teams 0-3 can maybe make it and do something, but it's who they're playing, and it's the Jets. So yeah, I would expect them to try to get this one and be 1-2.
All right, I'm very interested to hear what this next caller with a great deal of expertise in football has to say. Butch from Acushnet, you're on Santos on Sports.
Paul, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
Chris, how you doing?
Pleasure, my friend.
So, Paul, I do have one request before we get started.
Oh boy, I know what you're going to say.
In the future, if you could let us know in advance when you plan on attending the Patriots games.
But you thinking about betting opposite?
Yes.
Well, I would have liked to know in advance of me picking the whole year too. The other day on your show, I had the Patriots had a couple more wins than than it looks like they're going to have. But boy, it's been a tough 2 weeks. But again, I think turnovers, are the big deal here. They're not good enough to overcome turnovers, and they had two big ones. I think that pass that Mac Jones threw, that man was never open. And, I don't think that was, a ball that should have been thrown, at least in that direction, to that player. And then I thought the fumble was huge. I thought they had momentum. They were playing well. The defense is playing well. It's tough going right now. And then the Jets coming in after, it's tough going. I'm not sure if I wish I would have wrote down my selections, but I might have had them at 1 and 2 anyway. So it's some tough going. It's they're gonna have to be mistake free and then play well on top of that.
Yeah, no, I agree, Butch. Bill talks about phases of the game from defense, offense, special teams, obviously flags, turnovers, all these things have to work well, which they have in the past for Bill. And everybody would say, oh, not Bill's teams. Bill's teams don't cause penalties. Bill's teams never turn the ball over. Bill's teams, do this, and do that. So, I've heard it for 20 years. Well, now when you have rookies, you have unproven players. You may not have the talent that you've had in the past. You have to revert to other things to try to get better. Sometimes it works for you, and sometimes it works against you. And right now, fumbles and flags have worked against them. You saw that special teams play, which was outstanding. The guy come from the side, then go in and dive and block the ball. So they do some right things. But you need all that to work and gel together. And unfortunately, in that particular game against a good, talented team like Miami, it didn't, and it showed up in the scoreboard.
I agree with you, Chris. I thought they schemed against Tariq Hill. I thought their defense played well. I will also agree with you on penalties. Without Scarnecchia, without McDaniels, without Brady, those are some huge losses that I'm not sure will ever be replaced, going forward. And then again, special teams, I thought, coming from the greatest coach ever, I thought whoever schemed that up to block that field goal, that was something that someone had extreme experience in coaching football. And you can't do that now. You won't see that now forever and a day, because when someone's lined up way out there, it's going to tip them off, and the defenses, the field goal teams will make adjustments to block that guy. But again, I think he sees what he has and the mistakes that are being made. Penalties, I think, are the most surprising thing to me. Turnovers, again, are athletic things, or maybe, like an error in athleticism. But, penalties are something that we're not used to seeing stopping drives and impacting the outcome of the game.
Well, that play, Paul, Butch, that's perfect timing. And so maybe they saw what Miami does with their snap count on every punt versus the Chargers. And then they sat there and said, okay, if I do that and we time it just right, because he easily could have been offsides if he doesn't make that snap count just right. And he just happened to do it that way. So it worked in his advantage. Somebody saw something on film and they took advantage of it. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's what you scheme for. That's just a play that worked for you. And they had nothing to lose, because where they were punting from, who cares if they gave him 5 more yards, going up and offsides. It was at the 50 anyways. So no big deal.
Well, that special teams play, right? I was reading in one of the Boston publications that Joe Judge might have had something to do with that. So there's a guy that's been getting bashed the last couple of years. But you do make a good point, right? If you're the Patriots, the other team has more talent than you. You got to rely on a trick play like that. Well, that kind of a play only going to work once. Like you say, you can't bring it out every other week. That was just a one-time thing, and the Patriots still lost the game.
Yeah,
I agree. That's a tough loss. It's tougher than the first week. Although I thought, again, I did want to reiterate, I thought they took Tariq Hill. You can't stop him, but you definitely slowed him down. And the defense put the offense in a position where they could have won that game. But the offense can just not get out of its own way in the last 2, maybe even 3 years.
Right.
And there's got to be some adjustments made there.
Well, let me ask you something, Butch, right? Obviously, Philadelphia, defending NFC champions, went to the Super Bowl last year. I think you can look at them and say, you know what? They have more talent than the Patriots. Then you look at Miami, right? Doesn't Miami also have more talent than the Patriots? And if you're playing teams all year that have more talent than you do, how are you going to have a winning record?
Yeah, well, I mean, those are 2 teams, right? Those are 2 teams that probably have more talent. So you're going to have to find, other teams that play better as a team as opposed to individual talent. But yeah, you're gonna have to do some things. I mean, you're gonna have to practice harder. You're gonna have to coach harder. You're gonna have to play harder. You're gonna have to take advantage of turnovers. You're gonna have to cause turnovers. I'm not sure what the plus minus is right now for the Patriots, but and you're gonna have to stay. The flags. You can't have penalties that stop momentum drives. That's the thing. They're just not good enough to overcome that. I'm not giving up on them. Although I thought this week was more of a litmus test than opening day.
Well, Mr. Guarantee has the Patriots at 10-7 at the end of the year, so that means the Patriots have to go 10-5 the rest of the way just to get to 10-7. I don't know, that seems like that's a really almost impossible.
Well, hopefully he does, because maybe he'll be 500 and all his guarantees after that.
All right, Butch. Thank you very much.
All
right, talk to you later. Yeah, bye-bye. Maybe Mr. Guarantee will be 500. It's going to take a while to get to 500. Anyway, hey, if you're watching out there in Chicago, give us a call, 774-762-6234, or wherever you're watching from. Give us a shout and tell us where you're calling from, and give us your opinion about if you think Mac Jones really is unfortunately being blamed for the Patriots' woes, when really it's not really mostly his fault. I mean, what do you think about Mac Jones as a quarterback, Chris?
Yeah, I think he's, medium to, average to, around that area. I don't put him elite, obviously. I don't put him above average yet. I got him as an average quarterback. He doesn't make, the big mistake or, try to throw things that he has no business throwing. He's learning their system still. He's still young. He's got some things he probably can still work on, and I'm sure they're doing with him as much as they can. And but again, when you look on paper, okay, yeah, Philly's better than them, Miami's better than them, and we've seen that with some other teams where, yeah, they look better on paper, yet the other team who wasn't still beat them, and they found ways to beat them. So that's what New England's going to have to do until they really, establish themselves on offense, which is right now the weakest part of their game, because I think their defense is good. Special teams is fine. It's just finding a way to bulk up that offensive line, get them comfortable, and then start hitting, what they need to hit on the offensive side of the ball. So hopefully they can adjust and get better as people get healthy and the year goes on.
Watching their offense is pretty woeful, because, you're kind of watching the game and you're just kind of getting a feel for the game. And you just get the feeling that Miami is able to come down the field a little bit easier. Everything that the Patriots did to move down the field was like pulling teeth. It's like 3 yards there and 4 yards there. They're in so many 3rd and 2s and 3rd and 3s. And you say, well, that's a makeable 3rd down. Yeah, but you don't want to have a 3rd and 3 like 5 times in a row either. You know what I mean? Because something goes wrong, you don't get the first down, right? So it just felt like, wow, it's just so much work for the Patriots to come down the field. And the passes, all these little 6-7 yard passes, short little dink and dunk, which dink and dunk can work fine. There's no question about that. But I don't know, it just felt like it was so difficult for the Patriots to move downfield.
Well, you're looking for a big play. You're looking for an explosive play. I don't know if they have all of that yet in the weapons they have. If they do right now, it's Henry and Gesicki who's making those big plays compared to maybe some of the outside guys. But they need to find that, and they need to find someone who can do that for them. And so, they're hoping down the road that they got guys who can do that and make those big explosive plays, like a Waddle and a Hill and A.J. Brown for the Eagles. The two teams they play. Guys who you think can make the big play. Who's that guy for the Patriots? Right now, it's non-existence.
Well, I was asking you a question about Mac Jones, where you put him as far as a quarterback, and I thought you might say a little bit better than average, something like that. But it sounded like you were average, and that's pretty much it, just average.
Average, yeah, maybe just a tad better. I mean, right around there. If there's 31 teams, I'd have him in the middle, 15, 16, 17 out of all these quarterbacks. I'd probably put him in somewhere around there if I sat down and looked at everybody and went through it all.
Who do you think's better between him and Tua?
Well, right now I think Tua is with. I'm not saying Mac Jones doesn't have accuracy, but I think Tua is better. He's a very efficient quarterback. We course, he's got better guys that can catch the ball for him, obviously. But if that guy's in that spot, I like him getting you the ball better than Matt getting you the ball. That's
All right.
I see.
Yeah, but can't you make the argument that if you were to flip-flop the quarterbacks, right?
Yeah.
Put Tua on the Patriots, put
Right.
Mac Jones on Miami, right? And now Mac Jones is throwing a Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle and stuff like that. I mean, won't we be having a totally different conversation here?
Yeah, I mean, you can look at it from a lot of different ways. If I switch this, I switch this. Now, Paul, when you say that, see, I look at it from a point of how you scheme with the quarterback that you have. Does that mean that now, if Tua was on New England, would the Patriots run a different offense? With Mac on Miami, would Miami run a different offense? See, I can't get into that X's and O's and place this guy and place that guy there, because now you have to talk about speed of the player. You got to talk about arm strength. You got to talk about intelligence. You got to talk about reads. There's a lot that goes on to that. So it's very difficult to say, well, if I flipped in this position and that position, he could do the same thing. That's difficult to say. Yeah, I get where you're coming from. Who would do better at that point? But right now, I just think Tua might be just a little bit better than Mac. Simple as that.
Yeah, but Waddle and Hill are going to get you separation, right? So now if Mac Jones is looking downfield and he sees Hill, getting separation or Waddle getting open or something like that, that's a big advantage to the quarterback.
On man-to-man coverage, yes. On zone coverage, no. So now you got to sit in the zone. You got to find the dead spots in the zone and get him the ball. Compared to, now I got Gonzalez on Hill. Hey, he's got more speed. Maybe I can hit him, find that guy. It's a lot. It's so complicated as a coach in the NFL and as players, just to say, well, if I swap that guy for that guy, this is what's going to happen. It's just so difficult to say. And as a guy who's coached football, I've seen it with quarterbacks that we've used, whether he was a starter or a backup or a JV coming in. You know what one guy can do, so we plan for this. This guy can do this, so we plan for that. There's just so much into it, Paul. It's very, very, very hard to say it like that.
Hunter Henry, right? I really enjoyed watching him in person. Obviously I've been rooting for him on television. I think he's one of the bright spots of the Patriots that year that they went out and spend the money on free agency. And being at the game and kind of watching him, I was watching him run his patterns and his routes and stuff like that, which you can do more of that when you're at the game. Yeah. And I really like him. I think he's had a really good run here with the Patriots, and I'm hoping they keep him because I think he's very, very good, and he makes big plays at the big moments too. He's like a kind of a clutch kind of a guy, so I like the way he plays.
Yeah, and he's shown great results when he was with the Chargers and played well there. And I think adding Gesicki kind of helps him out too. So I don't mind the two tight end set when they have them in there too. So that's good to see, and that's a plus for the Patriots.
All right, give us a call if you'd like to, or make some comments, 774-762-6234 for Santos on Sports. I want to get into the Red Sox for a few minutes while we have our remaining moments here. Since the last time we were on, or really the time before that, the Red Sox fired Chaim Bloom, their general manager, the nerdy guy who was figuring everything out on the computer. And, okay, he got fired. So the second question I asked was, is he really a scapegoat for what's happened with the Red Sox? You go to the Yankee game. I went to the Yankee game. I got a good price for tickets right behind the plate. And it was a great evening. The Red Sox lost, of course. But I was right behind the plate with my son. Beautiful. My grandson went to the game and everything. It was just phenomenal. 70 degrees. It was just great, right? So, but you looked around and you're like, wow, this is a Yankee game. There's empty seats in this park. And then when it got to like the 6th or 7th inning, it was probably, I don't know, it was probably like 80% full or something like that. So, obviously, Henry is probably thinking, hey, you know what? This guy's been here. We're not having success. We've missed the playoffs a couple of times. Time to move on and go in another direction. But you have to wonder, he brought Bloom in for a reason. He brought Bloom in to say, you know what? We're going to win like some of these small market teams do, like the Milwaukee Brewers do, or some of these small market teams that find a way to win, even though they're not spending a lot of money. That was what he came in here for. So can't we blame the ownership for that?
Oh, absolutely you could. And, when the organization makes a decision, Paul, and you bring somebody in, and you're a high-profile organization like the Boston Red Sox are, you don't take losing lightly. And so somebody was going to go somewhere. You knew that was going to happen. because of what they've done this year and what their record is. Now, you can go back and say, well, the Betts deal, the Bogarts deal, you can start circling back. But as you said, when you bring a guy in for a specific reason, and I think that's why they brought Bloom in, was to say, let's do it like the way the Orioles do it, or let's do it like the way Tampa Bay does it. And let's figure out how we can kind of do the same. Now, you try it, and it doesn't work like the other organizations have pulled it off. And so now you have a scapegoat. Now, I'm not saying, Bloom doesn't have some say in the matter, because I think he does. But when it goes bad, you got to look somewhere, whether it was Cora or whether it was him, and they went with his direction first. That's where they're at. They made a decision. Okay, it's not what they're looking for in the future, in how this team really can be something special with the payroll that they have, and they expect them to be up there every year in the American League East. So for him to go, I totally agree with you. I think it's upper management saying, well, it didn't work out. We tried it this way. Well, he's going to go. We're going to find something else and then try something new next year.
The interesting thing is, like last year, or actually I think it was earlier this year, Red Sox were only like 1 or 2 games out of the wild card of the trade deadline.
Yeah.
And everyone was like, what are they going to do? What are they going to do? Maybe they can do something, right?
Mm-hmm.
Same thing as last year. They were right on the borderline of, making the playoffs. And last year they didn't do anything, right? So, the players, I think it's kind of deflating for the players that are there. But then, okay, they went through last year. Okay. Now they come to this year, they do the same thing again, right? So what does that say for the players in that locker room? Do those players in the locker room go, you know what? They're professional athletes. They have their own statistics. They want to win. But is there something deflating about that, do you think?
Yeah, I think there can be. I think teams realize and know, and even if you ask, let's say, a Devers, and he'll say, yeah, I think we're an arm away from being better, or, we're a second baseman from being better, because, you don't want to call out other teammates.
Right,
That's
exactly.
one thing you don't want to do.
They're really limited at what they can say.
Of course, they're limited what can be said and what can't be. So you got to kind of watch that. But absolutely, I think they know what's going on, what can help this team, what can be better, who can be called up, who could not. And obviously the trade deadline, when you're that close, do we have what it takes to pull the plug and make a move? Now, in the Red Sox situation, I think they were going by what is coming back after the trade deadline. Story wasn't back. Sale wasn't healthy. Duvall wasn't in there. This guy wasn't there. That guy, a lot of things going on. So I think they were kind of weighted up and said, it's got to be a pretty good deal for us to really go get it. If not, these guys are coming back. Let's see how it goes after that. And we'll take the heat if it goes down that way. So maybe that's why they did it. They took the heat. That's why Bloom is not there, because they put all the heat on him.
Suppose they went out there and got like a big name free agent, like a Scherzer or something like that, and put him in there, right?
Yep.
Do you think that would have made this much of a difference? With the Red Sox, 7 or 8 games out of the wild card? With the Red Sox have, had a little bit more good feelings, on the team, that maybe this guy goes out there every 5th day and he can win you a game and stuff like that.
Yeah, I don't know if it's just one player. No,
Yeah.
I don't think it's just one player. I think it's a little bit more. Obviously, they don't have a leadoff anymore, with Duran being out for the rest of the year and what has happened to him. So that kind of hurt them. They made all kinds of changes in the lineup, offensively and defensively. So I don't think one guy on the pitching staff, you might get a win every 5 games, but I don't know if that can count up enough and capitalize, where some of these guys who came back, a Cutter Crawford, some of these players have just not met the expectations that they were hoping that they would.
Well, you mentioned Trevor Story. He came back from that injury, and he hasn't been playing well at all. I think he's batting like 194. And I was never really a Story guy. They brought Story in. They stuck him at second base. They asked him one time, you're going to play second base? Well, at least for this year. he already knew they were going to put him at shortstop. They already knew they were going to, get rid of Bogarts. It was a done deal, even back then. Because basically him saying that I'm going to play second base for 1 year. Well, how do you know that? Well, they already had the plan to put Story there. And I don't know. I mean, Bogarts isn't exactly lighting it up there in the National League, but I don't know. So far, at least at this particular juncture, I like Bogarts better.
No, I agree with that. Yeah, I think Xander's a better player than Story, number one. And number two, Paul, don't forget, you got to play some defense. And that's where the Sox have been bad this year.
Oh, yeah.
They have not played well on the defensive side of the ball. That needs to improve to kind of capitalize on some of these games. They've given up a few errors in some of these games that have cost them some wins. So they need to shape that up as well. It's not just all about hitting. They need to do it defensively too.
Well, like twice this year, they gave up what people called in a humorous manner the Little League home run.
Yeah.
Where there's a little roller in the infield, they're throwing the ball back and forth, and the next thing you know, the player comes all the way around and scores, crosses the plate.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, that's pretty horrendous for a major league team.
No, I agree with you there, and they need to find a way to sit back down, whether it's with Cora or someone else, and just in case he decides to move up. And if they don't work on that and get better at that, because that's a big part of the game for them defensively to go along, obviously, where they're hitting.
Well, there's a question that still remains to be seen, flipping back to the football for a second. Does Mac Jones have this? Does Mac Jones have this? Okay. I think the answer to that question is we really don't know. You know what I mean? Like you could say, well, he's had the ball in both of these last games, game 1 against Philadelphia, game 2 against Miami. He had the ball in the fourth quarter in his hands. And I got to tell you, Patriots got the ball with I looked at the clock, it was 2 minutes and 10 seconds left. And I remember saying to my wife, I don't know if I think I said it to my wife, I said, I don't have any confidence that they're going to go down and win this game right now. I just don't. I'm not going to put it all on Mac Jones. I'm not going to say if Brady was there without weapons, what that would be. Last time the Patriots played with Brady on there, he threw a pick 6 in that game against Tennessee. So when he didn't have the weapons, he had a hard time too. I just didn't feel like they were going to win. So I don't know. Do we not know yet whether Mac is that clutch guy, or do we already say, I don't think he is?
Well, you've had 2 situations, at least for this year, and we just watched the last one. And if it's 3rd and 7 and you only throw it 5 and you don't throw it 8 and you come up a yard short, things like that. Now you're expecting, the receiver to do a little bit better job of getting to that 8 yards instead of 5. So there's some different ways of looking at it. Who do you blame on that? He ran the wrong route and it wasn't further. Or do you say, well, no, Mac, can't do it. But there's been 2 chances. So hopefully they figure that out and get better down the stretch, because it's been crunch time 2 weeks in a row.
When we were watching the game live, I was thinking the exact same thing. Right? It's 3rd and 7 and you throw the ball 5, right? And then you have to, do that lateral that almost worked and everything else. Okay. So then I came home and I'm watching the highlights. In all fairness to Mac Jones, I mean, he was under siege. If you watch that play, he's dropping back. Yeah. Guys are coming at him. Yeah. He throws the ball just barely gets it away, gets hit, and the ball lands in the receiver's hands, a yard or 2, away from the first down, and he tries to go over and get it. So really, I don't know. It wasn't really, I mean, what was he going to do with that ball? I mean, that was really the only place he could go with the ball in that situation, I think.
Yeah, pretty much. So, he took a shot from what was there. And sometimes, Paul, you got to take what's given to you. And when you're being rushed like that, or if you were blitzed, then you got to get rid of it. You got to find that open man and, make that right read. So I can't give it to him yet. On that piece of paper to say, yeah, he has that. So hopefully he can find it. That will help out New England fans, but no, not right now. He doesn't.
All right. Well, something, you might say, well, what's cornhole, right? It's just like a fun game that you play when you're tailgating and stuff like that. But who has this right here? Chris Santos. Chris Santos has the info. Now he's playing cornhole with his daughter. Your daughter is a fantastic cornhole player.
Yeah.
She is awesome,
Yeah.
So she had the lead, and she started dancing. Oh yeah, I'm gonna take Dad down. I'm like, no, don't do that. I feel something coming, right?
She woke the sleeping bear, Paul. She woke the sleeping bear.
I woke the sleeping giant. So I said, no, here it comes. He makes his move. All of a sudden, here goes a choom right in the hole, choom right in the hole, choom right in the hole. I'm like, oh man, this guy. So Chris
Well,
Santos,
listen, my daughter will tell you, even for her, even when she was younger, I don't take it easy on my daughter. I don't care what I'm playing, even if it's my own mother. It's competition to me, and I'm going to play it. And a lot of people know who I am. I don't
you're a
like to lose.
competitor.
It doesn't matter what I'm playing. So I'm going out there giving my all every time I'm doing something. I'm having fun doing it. We're enjoying ourselves. My daughter loves it. We have a great time with one another. So it's just fun, and she beats me sometimes, but I give it back to her when I can.
All right. I know on the tennis court, we know that on the tennis court, Chris Santos has one of these in the tennis court. So anyway, I would like to take the opportunity to thank our sponsors. How about John Seed, attorney at law, 156 8th Street in New Bedford? You can check out his website at johnseedlaw.com. Lakeville Athletic Club, 325 Bedford Street in Lakeville. You can play tennis and pickleball. Citywide Glass, 3 locations, 425 Stay Road in Dartmouth. Additional locations in Fall River and Taunton. And Scotty's Pub, 202 Pleasant Street in Fall River. Ryan from Rochester, notice my voice over here. On Monday, I woke up with like a sore throat and I think a little bit of a fever, and I was trying to do my other show, and I'm like, oh man, this Patriot game, not only did they lose because I was there, they didn't play very well. Then I went hoarse from yelling at them all night, going, what are you doing? What's the matter? Oh, And so I woke up with a sore throat, but it was worth it. It was worth it because it was a great, great time. And again, we appreciate you inviting us to go along with you. We had a wonderful time.
Yeah, it was good, Paul. I mean, you take in the atmosphere, you take in the yelling beside you, you take in the background noise of people talking and what they think of Mac or what they think of Bill or what they think about this play. And sometimes it's not at all as pretty as it looks, even when your daughter's sitting on your right-hand side. And, there's a lot going on that you have to hear and endure. But that's why they play the game. It was great having you, and it's a lot of fun. Hopefully we can do it again sometime.
Well, it was kind of funny, too, because there was a guy sitting behind my wife, and he kept yelling out, throw it to the player in red. Throw it to the player in red.
Yeah.
The Patriots, it goes in red. So we were getting a chuckle out of that. So you always get these wise guy comments when you're at the game. So anyway, thank you very much. And for those who called in today, thank you very much, Butch, Ryan, and Nelson.
Yep.
And for those who made comments today, we really, really appreciate it. And we hope to see you again very soon right here on Santos on Sports. For Chris, I'm Paul. Have a great night.